You're muted.
Not now.
Oh, there we go. You
How
got
are you?
you got full reign there. How are you today?
Fine.
Good.
Weather's good. What else can you ask for?
Yeah, no, I hear you. We'll take it. Admit.
You think we're gonna do it today? Dan will be able to question what we're doing if we can't.
I know. Hey, Dan.
Hello there. I don't question you two. Don't ever.
Oh, you should. You should. You. Ah,
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Once again, nice to
good
see you both.
afternoon, sir.
I'll go ahead and I will throw myself on the mute and get rid of my video, and you won't have to see me stress out seeing if folks will show up.
I'm not worried about the video thing, but the mute thing I do appreciate, just so it gets rid of any potential extemporaneous noise. That's all.
You got it. You got it. I try to respect.
But yeah, no, we love to see your smiling face.
Hey, well, yeah. I'll try not to, have you guys get too sick of me. So I appreciate it.
Stop it.
Hey, I'll throw myself on mute on that note. All right.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Did you see the Inquirer and Mirror?
No, I haven't seen the paper at all today. What should I be aware of now?
Read the editorial. What do they rip into the Conservation Commission? And I'm on it.
Oh, I've trust me, I've had my turn not too long ago, so you have my utmost respect and sympathy at the same time.
It's a whole column just ripping into Concom. And some of the points they raise are right.
Yeah. But I find for as much fact at times, there's an incredible amount of fiction that takes place too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And again, with the modicum of stay tuned for the next adventure.
Yes. There always is one. It's like the stop work on the clam shack because the balcony is too large. And it looks like one agency said it's okay, another agency says it's not okay.
Oh, that's why am I not even surprised by that?
Ah, yes. So we go over to the Cannabis Committee and we sample the products and we feel good.
And life will be right again.
That's the way it is, Dan, when Barry and I are on.
Hey, you got to invite me out if that's happening. That's all.
Well, there we go. There we go.
But hey,
we're a pretty open-ended group.
I have noticed. I've watched your meetings. I've tried to take some notes, and I can tell just from it's already been how many months? 3 months now going on. So I feel like I know you both pretty well at this point.
Well, thank you.
Hey.
Thank you. And if you've noticed, we both kind of bring a little bit of humor and no holds barred approach. There's a time and a place to be serious, but life is too short too. And I think there are times when you just need to maybe not take things so seriously.
That's a lesson I need to learn. Still, I learn it every day, I think, but no, right. But yeah. Hey.
Yeah, well, you've got one person you can bounce that back off of any time because I'm just as guilty.
Hey, well, yeah, you're not alone, my friend.
There you go.
And a lesson learned is take a look at the top of the heads of the people you're talking to. White, been around for 100 years, the hair is still hanging in just a little bit.
Hey, well, that's some wisdom, and that's where, you could see this. You don't need to see what's going on up here. So that's where I
No.
definitely could,
It's
learn
the
a thing or two on that.
white hair. The white hair is the clue.
Yeah, Barry, I hear you on that too. I was at a paint workshop session and they took photographs of the group and they just happened to catch me from the backside. And it's like, damn, that's getting worse. What the? But on the other side of the coin, could be completely bald like some of my other friends. And
You two are looking very, you two are looking great. And the white is, maybe I hope I look as good when I start to gray out there, so.
okay, all right, so the complimentary check is in the mail for that solicitation. Thanks.
Hey, I hope that doesn't count as a bribe, right? We're on the record now, so.
Yeah, there you go. As long as it's under $50, I think that's the.
There you go. Oh, man. All right, guys.
I want to get into
Yeah.
such trouble. It's not even funny.
Hey,
Well, I hope a few more people show up, but it's such a nice sunny day, and God knows.
is it Film Fest too? Is that happening this week? Next week?
I'm not sure.
I think it's
Truly
book week.
not. What is it?
I think it's book week this week.
Okay.
Enough to keep people busy. And that's where, nothing like trying to get something done on a municipal level during the summer. So I think,
Oh,
this
God,
is
well.
everyone's, time to take a little time off if they can.
I thought Abby might join. She's been pretty regular.
Let's see what time. We'll give it the traditional 15-minute mark. We're about 3 minutes in right now. But
How about Jacques?
I have not heard from him too much. I know he was having.
A
I want to
medical
be careful.
issue.
Yeah, he was having some health issues, and I want to be careful how I couch that.
Yeah.
Whether it was conflicting physician's appointments or whatever. But nonetheless, I haven't heard anything further from him, so maybe he'll join us. And I did reach back out again to Mr. Cooper and got a response back. So
maybe you can't put that on the air, that response.
Well, I got to no. I mean, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound so serious. He did respond back and said, I'll try to make your next meeting, and that's great.
How about Dorothy Hertz? We haven't heard from in a while.
Yeah, I hope you know the situation with that.
No.
Unfortunately, well, what happened was that her son is a firefighter.
Yes.
And unfortunately, he tragically passed away on Monday.
Oh, he's the one.
Yes,
Oh.
yes. Jamie Topham is his name.
Yes. Topham.
So that is Dorothy's son.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So really sad. And
it is. Because he was with the fire department for 6 months.
For about 6 months, yeah. And he was just, I knew him personally, and he he just really made some significant strides in his life between going to college, graduating not too long ago, and then one of his life's wishes was to be part of the fire department, and boom, there he was. So
yeah, well, we're not going to see her today.
And believe me, there was a lot of wrestling about whether to continue with this meeting or not, but I kind of took the idea that if no matter what, we'll do a moment of silence before I close out this 15 minutes, because I'm going to take that privilege. But what was I going to say? There was a lot of wrestling about whether to do this or not. And it was like, the other thing is life goes on.
Yes, it
You need to
does.
acknowledge that, and God knows there is a possibility she may show up, as remote as it may be. There's Abby.
Well, just if you do speak to her too, just extend my condolences as well.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sorry. Yeah, that's on that note too. Wow. I'm gonna, yeah, throw myself on mute. My own moment of silence for sure.
Yeah, I know it's still not everyone in the community knows yet, and it's still, especially something like that sometimes just really catches people off guard. Abby, I'm so jealous of you. I don't know if she can hear me yet. She's connecting to audio.
I think she's at Cisco Brewery. I can see
Could be.
things in the background. She hasn't heard any of that, fortunately.
I don't think so. She's still connecting. Nope.
Maybe now.
You got us there, Abby? Maybe. Thumbs up. Still trying, their system's still trying to connect into audio. There we go. Just take you off mute for a minute and say hello. You still muted there, Miss Abby. There we go.
Forget it,
Try
always
again.
double mute. Yeah, now you can hear me. So I'm sorry, I tried to call it in, but then it like trapped me in the waiting room because I didn't enter my participant ID fast enough. So
Oh,
sorry.
no, don't worry about it. It's fine. You can see that you're still well early at this point. But looking at your background at the moment, we all get kind of jealous.
Oh yeah, I'm outside. I'm moving locations today, and so I can't be inside. So I
Oh,
just was like, I have internet. I'll sit outside for a nice day. So my dog is laying next to me, just outside in the yard.
that sounds really pleasant.
Yeah, it's very nice out today, to be honest.
Yeah, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. That's why we're all jealous. You're out. We're in. I know it's our own fault. It's our own. All right, I'm gonna give things till 1:15 and then we'll see where things take us to.
And I guess I can pop myself off mute. Hi, Abby. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you too.
Oh my God. Joe. Whoever Joan S is, I really need a last name and some video, if you don't mind, please.
Hey, Barry, this is Jacques.
Shock. Good golly.
I was having a
Your
hard time logging on here.
your timing is impeccable
Okay.
because I was getting ready to call the meeting because it was at 1:15. Hello, Mr.
Yeah, sorry
Quorum.
about that.
No, hello, Mr. Quorum.
Yeah. About changing the name, I'm not sure how I do that.
If you click up on the up on the upper left-hand side and roll your mouse up there, you'll see three little buttons that'll pop up. Three little, a button with three little things in it. Maybe.
No,
Hang on.
I see recording on the right-hand side, maybe.
Never mind. You just hold on for a second.
Just the view.
Hopefully I didn't misspell that. Take a look.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Oh my God. Wow. All right. Well, TikTok. So we actually have a quorum at this point. Thank God. I'm flabbergasted. I'm thrilled. I'm in shock. Anyways, all right, let's kind of get started at this point. So this is an open meeting law, which is conducted by the rules set forward by the town and the state of Massachusetts. In this particular instance, we're using Zoom for this meeting, which allows the public to participate in the meeting as an attendee. Chair can request members of the public to provide their name for purposes of keeping accurate minutes. You've already registered at this point. Thank you. Please try to mute wherever possible or just be aware of what your background noise is. That's all. And if I see your hand raised, there's an electronic way to do that, or you can just wildly fill your hands about, and that will usually catch my attention as well. Please make sure all your questions are directed through the chair. Just as a preliminary notice at this point, my name is Barry Rector, and I'm acting in behalf of the Cannabis Advisory Committee as its chair. Let me just confirm that all members present and are anticipated, and you can hear me at this point. So members, when I call your name, just please respond in the affirmative. Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Abby DiMolina,
Aye.
Jacques Zemecki,
Here.
and Barry Rector is member, also here as member of the commissions. And we do have an anticipated speaker, which is Dan Berger. I know he's been incredibly patient, and I just want to acknowledge him. And if you just identify, please identify just by saying present or here.
Dan Berger, present.
Thank you. All right. Perfect. So I think that's pretty much the entire thing at this point. I'll make sure and monitor for anyone else, but I think our group is intimately here. I am going to take just a moment of privilege before I get too far into this meeting. Dorothy Hertz will not be in attendance, and hopefully some of you know what's transacted with that. Her son, which was Jamie Topham, unfortunately passed away quite by surprise to everyone on Monday morning. Dorothy, that's her son, and I'm sorry, I'm a little caught up here because I've known him for ages as well too. So if you can just do me a favor, and it's entirely up to you, I just would appreciate a moment of silence and just, however you do that in some attitude of respect or prayer or whatever suits your needs at this point. So if you just entertain a moment with me, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. All right, so we have an agenda before us at this point, and I would love a motion to approve the agenda. By
I
Joe
make the motion.
Landowski, and do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Abby. Appreciate it. Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor, Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Abby,
Aye.
Jacques,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. What's that? I'm sorry, I missed that comment, but that's okay. So we're all in approval of that. I don't have any draft minutes for you. Dan's going to speak anyways, but if he wants to speak as a member of the public, he's welcome to as well. Otherwise, we're going to continue. Thank you. I had just left a footnote on here about day and time of scheduled meetings. Strangely, that request came from Dorothy as well. But for the I'll keep it on the agenda. But just for the moment, are you guys kind of all guys and gals all still kind of good with the time that we're meeting at here? You can just shake your head, give me a thumbs up, whatever.
Fine with
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Jacques, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I can't see you, so I'm sorry. I'll have to.
That's okay.
All right, so that's good to know. Election of officers, if you're good with that too, I'll just continue to table that until we get a much more robust group happening. Or is everyone fine with that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So a few things that have started to occur at this point. On April 18th, I had a meeting with the town manager. It was been quite a while since her and I have talked about the Cannabis Advisory Committee. I wanted to chat with her too, just to make sure we were still on the radar at this point and very interested about being an integral part of continuing to work with on behalf of the town regarding any cannabis issues. So that was a really good meeting to have. She was very supportive, and I think when I get down a little further on the list, you'll see that. So there are a few, as with anything, there were a few wrinkles to iron out, and everything worked. Everything in the end seems to be working really fine. So it was good to re-cement that relationship. Any questions or anything? Nope. All right. So let's keep going on at this point. Dan, how many months have you been waiting for this? About 3, right? And we've all had, I don't know, Jacques, if you've had the opportunity, but I know Abby, Joe, and myself, since we never really were able to constitute quorum, we had an opportunity to chat with Dan. But let me welcome him officially at this point, and I'll let you do your spiel here. Welcome.
Thank you. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone making time for this. Just to start off, and this is off script. I have something scripted, but I will say too, Abby and Joe and Barry, they know I was actually getting graded on a project for this. And I will say I passed that project. I hope you all are happy to hear that. But so now I might go a little off the script now, but so I digress though. Good afternoon, members of the Cannabis Advisory Committee and fellow attendees. My name is Dan Berger, and I'm here today to discuss potential changes to Nantucket's cannabis bylaws and share my aspirations to operate on the island. I appreciate your time and attention, and I'll do my best to keep my presentation brief to ensure we have ample opportunity for dialogue. A bit about myself: I was born and raised in Ballston Spa, New York, but Nantucket has always held a special place in my heart. Some of my earliest memories are riding the steamship to the island. I've always cherished Nantucket as a home away from home. One of my first jobs right out of high school was on the island, and I keep finding my way back. Over the ensuing years, I found my passion in the regulated cannabis industry, where I gained extensive experience beginning in California, working in cultivation and at a local dispensary. Later, after moving back east, I joined Theory Wellness in Massachusetts, contributing to the opening of 3 dispensaries and over $40 million in sales in 2019 alone. Since October 2020, I've been a co-founder and equity partner of Grasp Ventures LLC. I've partnered with the folks at Grasp Health, who have been operational in the medical space for around a decade. After closing a round of fundraising earlier this year, we are actively retrofitting our vehicle and finalizing the security build out of our 3,000 square foot space in Salem, Massachusetts. Today, I stand before you as someone who loves the island and as a social equity program participant. In 2016, Massachusetts voters passed Question 4, legalizing adult use cannabis. A key result of Question 4 was the inclusion of language mandating the creation of regulations that promote full participation in the regulated cannabis industry by people from communities disproportionately harmed by cannabis prohibition and enforcement. This led to the establishment of the Economic Empowerment Program and the Social Equity Program, as well as delivery and social consumption licenses being available to those eligible for these programs for the first 3 years of their inception. As a social equity program participant, I'm committed to supporting social equity initiatives across the state. The proposed changes to Nantucket's cannabis bylaws that I present today aim to create more opportunities for those disproportionately affected by past drug enforcement policies, myself included, and to align with the state's social equity goals, as well as benefit all stakeholders hoping to operate on the island. I propose several bylaw changes, including enabling the co-location of adult use licenses, removing the 2,000-foot buffer requirement between establishments, allowing non-plant touching adult use license types to qualify as home occupations, integrating delivery and social consumption license types, as well as streamlining definitions to consolidate regulations. These proposed changes offer numerous benefits, such as enhanced efficiency and adaptability within the industry, fostering a more accessible and competitive market, and supporting entrepreneurship and small businesses, all while aligning with the state's social equity initiatives. Additionally, they aim to improve the clarity of regulations for both businesses and residents. As for my personal aspirations, I've already engaged with the select board on the potential of receiving a host community agreement regarding delivery, and I've received interest in our services from stakeholders on the island. These discussions have brought us here, as the current definition of marijuana establishment prohibits delivery. Additionally, I've been working on a business plan for a cannabis cafe for some time. My proposed changes would enable these discussions to begin while keeping local control intact. No one can initiate the licensing process without a host community agreement from the select board. So any iteration of a cannabis establishment must begin with approval from the town. Moving forward, I hope to engage in open dialogue and collaboration with the Cannabis Advisory Committee and any interested community members. I'm more than willing to provide additional information and resources to support your decision-making process. I'm also more than happy to address any questions on my plans for delivery and social consumption and how these changes may support those aspirations. My goal is to contribute to responsible industry expansion that aligns with Nantucket's unique history and character. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present, and I'm happy to address any questions or concerns you may have. I also want to thank everyone from the town that I've dealt with throughout this process. Barry being one of them for sure, and Joe and Abby and everyone else, as they have shown me nothing but patience and professionalism. With that being said, I yield to the CCC, and thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you. That was very nice. Thank you. Do any of you have any questions at this point? No? Joe?
I have some questions.
Yeah, please go right ahead. This is what this opportunity is for now.
The way this is set up on the island right now, I think it's 20% of all the liquor licenses that have been granted shows you how many dispensaries you can have. And I think that's why we're at 2 at the moment.
Mhm.
And that's a hurdle that has to be jumped. And I don't know if that decision goes to an annual town meeting or whether it can be done by select board. But that's the first hurdle. You got to get in the game. And then the second point I would raise is, I don't know, I'm not for monopolies, but you gotta have some monopolies, like your water supply at home or your electrical supply. Those are monopolies. When you get to something like cannabis, what, right now there is a monopoly because there are only two that are allowed in. What happens if three come in? Does that destroy the other two also? Because you're sharing just a certain pot of clients, people interested in buying the product. Those are 2 points two hurdles that I think need to be jumped. Certainly the first one on changing that 20%. And I don't have a problem with what the percentage is, but it's got to get changed. Otherwise, Dan will not get in. The monopoly will continue.
Mhm. Dan, do you want to respond to that, or do you want me to respond to it? I think you've done a fair amount of homework at this point. I'll listen in if you'd like. It's up to you.
I will happily respond. And I've definitely tried to do my homework in a literal sense and then, extracurricular as well. So to your points, and I think the first one is definitely one that most people trying to get operational in any municipality are running into these license caps. And if you read actually the section of the town code for Nantucket, the limitation on licenses, the licenses that are capped are specifically adult use marijuana retailers. So my license type, for instance, delivery, it's specified in the state regulations that delivery is to be considered non-retail. So the thing that's prohibiting me now from getting a host community agreement, it's not the cap, it's the definition of marijuana establishment that prohibits me from allowing delivery. And social consumption, I think that's going to be another discussion for this 20% cap. And whether, and I think that's, something really to look at maybe when you're establishing zoning as well, because, social consumption, I think is going to be more analogous to bars or taverns, right? Where there's different zoning than package stores, for instance, and it's a different, type of establishment by nature. But
I agree,
right
and
now,
that comes a little later, once you get everything up and running. And you can start pushing the cafe concept. You wouldn't start with a cafe concept initially.
well, honestly, I'm at the point I hold a delivery license. So I am, I've been looking at a social consumption license for quite a few years, actually. And the biggest holdup, right, has been a slow regulatory rollout on the state level. The state has finally had progress actually in their last couple meetings where they eliminated the social consumption pilot program, opening it up so municipalities like Nantucket can opt into this. And whether it's adopted by an ordinance by folks like yourself, or it can be voted on by, I think it's the next general election, and it has to be more than 50% can vote on it. So whether it's on the ballot, well, whether it's a warrant article, like, Nantucket, we're unique in that regard. But I think there's a few avenues to get this going. And now, the state has opened it up. I'm sitting in my delivery establishment in Salem, Massachusetts right now, actually. So, it's a shared establishment. I have neighbors. There's actually a school within 500 feet if we measured by lot line, but there's an updated definition of from the state where you measure by closest accessible entrance. So, there's been a number of developments over the last 5 years that I think now it's the time to maybe look at, expanding some definitions. And I think this could help. And I think to my biggest point too, local control remains intact here. No one will be able to begin the process at all without that host community agreement from the select board. So any operator like myself or anyone on the island who has these ambitions, right? You're going to have to sit in front of the select board, make that case, fill out the application process, get your building permit, get provisionally licensed by the state. There's a very strict, regimen of approvals that you have to follow. And this is really just, allowing these discussions to begin. But I digress.
We had a discussion, or I read it, about the delivery service. And the restrictions on that are pretty tough, because one of the things I recall is you had to have 2 people in the delivery vehicle, which That's the call. You gotta wonder, why do you need two people in a delivery truck? You get FedEx and UPS driving around here all the time with just the driver.
And if I may on that, I think that's a great point, Joe. And if you could make a call to the Cannabis Control Commission, I think we're all trying to make that point right now where that second driver is not necessary. And it's an anecdote from my counsel, actually, Blake Mensing. He's great. He's responsible for 10% of the licenses in Massachusetts. But his point is the only thing in Massachusetts that requires more security to transport is uranium. So, and Barry, you may be able to actually correct me on that as someone who's worked in the pharmaceutical industry as well. But we're dealing in controlled substances, and I think I've listened to a meeting where, Joe, you made the point you can receive opiates in the mail, right? But the regulations surrounding cannabis are very strict.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% correct. I mean, the state views this less than a delivery like FedEx and more like a delivery by Brinks
And
is what it boils down to. And I won't disagree with you. When in the pharmacy industry, when we got our totes in that would have controlled Schedule II substances, they were in a slightly different colored tote, which I always found very interesting. It's kind of like, oh, that's an easy pick off from the truck. But they were also zip tied, sealed, and then everything was locked in a plastic bag. And again, you had to inventory and verify inventory right at that stage. But there was only one driver who was dropping that off. So let's be clear about that as well too.
do you plan?
Huh?
Go ahead, Barry. I had another.
No, go ahead,
question.
please. I'm sorry.
Do you plan to grow your own marijuana here, or are you thinking about acquiring it from the Bartlett organization?
Yeah, so that's where the adult use landscape is very different from the medical side, right? So we have two medical treatment centers on the island, and the regulations as they stand, they have to be vertically integrated, right? So the
Yes.
only way I could co-locate any license on the adult use side is if I was medical. So with that being said, unless, I that would be down the line if I was cultivating anything, but the plan is that I would seek a delivery. Well, and that's the thing. So there are two delivery licenses on the state level. There's the marijuana courier license and there's the delivery operator. And these are the business to consumer, right? So marijuana courier, you're essentially picking up orders from registered dispensaries and fulfilling orders for those dispensaries. The delivery operator license, the one I hold here in Salem, I can wholesale from registered organizations in the state, store my product here, and sell directly to consumer. On Nantucket right now, that model doesn't really make sense until, it goes federal, until, a couple things happen, right? Maybe a couple more cultivators, that would not necessarily make sense. And then also as far as real estate, right? There's a big difference between my 3,000 square foot facility here in Salem and what a marijuana courier would need, right? We'd essentially, and this is where the home occupation comes into play. All you really need is a space to park your vehicle and a space to store your computer and your servers. Besides that, you're going to these registered organizations, picking up the product there. And you are very familiar with the Green Lady and Act Natural. They're a very robust supply chain. And I look forward to hopefully working with both of them. But we will see. That's right. Nothing is guaranteed. I've learned that in cannabis. Nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah.
I think we had some discussion of that once before, Barry, where one of the two, and I don't remember which one of the two on the island said he would not consider delivery.
Yeah, I honestly don't. I
remember.
do remember the discussion, but I couldn't tell you which organization it was. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me just take a minute. Abby, any questions or comments or suggestions?
No, I mean, I think it's a good discussion. I think Dan makes good points about like the consistency, the security of, if we're not having this level of burden on controlled substances. I agree. I don't think it seems fair to do it to cannabis providers. I was thinking when you were talking about the cafe, like the cafe model obviously was very successful in Europe. So I don't think we should necessarily discount that either. As like, especially when Dan, you're talking about that like social aspect, I feel like that is definitely like a big part of it because, especially, I'm sure you've spent time in Holland, or I have, being that I'm Dutch. You know, and it is much more of like a social activity. So I think that if that's part of your argument, that is something that really does bolster it. And so you might want to provide more color example data from that that type of, you know, aspect, because I do think like that could be something when we're talking about like the cafe part. You know what I mean? So that was just the only thing I was thinking to add.
So Dan, what's the first step in your mind?
So yeah, the first step, and Abby, those are great points. And we're probably cousins because I also have some pretty deep Dutch ancestry. So there you go. First steps, that's where I think really this could be the first step. And there's a number of other things that I've thought of, that I've shopped to other municipalities, that there are, you know, advocate groups working on behalf. But I think this really is, I think, the key piece to this puzzle, where just allowing the discussion to happen with the select board, and then also making it, you know, if we're updating this definition, making the definition a little more robust, because yeah, you all know all too well how small Nantucket is and how competitive real estate has gotten and how just tough the landscape is. And aligning this with any other, you know, if there was a liquor distributor on the island, right, it wouldn't be a problem for them to have a home office and to park their vehicle and drive and do whatever. And I know for a fact there are alcohol deliveries happening on the island. So just on that, you know, side of things, and, you know, social consumption too. This is a big discussion, especially now, just on the state level. You know, there's a social consumption working group happening with a few commissioners and state workers, and they're looking at not just, you know, what you think maybe social consumption would look like an Amsterdam style cafe. They're looking at a slew of license types, from mobile consumption buses. The example the chair used during the meeting was she wanted to be able to ride a bus in Provincetown to the beach and be able to smoke joints, you know, on the way. So the chair, even of the Cannabis Control Commission, I think, is thinking of the bigger picture and thinking of, yeah, Massachusetts, we're a big state, right? And, you know, from Nantucket to North Adams, right? That's where I like to joke. I've lived the whole sort of breadth of it as well. So I think Nantucket, there are some ways that we can look at it, and it's maybe a unique approach because it's so small. That's where I think, you know, incentivizing more spaces where these people can operate, opening up these discussions. And again, select board is the beginning and sort of end of all of this too, because without that permission, no one can begin. So they can consider proximity then. There will be community discussions during this, all of that. So, you know, I've sent Barry too many emails to count at this point with various drafts that I've been working on as it goes. But I think, you know, honestly, the last couple months not having a quorum, I think may have helped, because it's helped me sort of flesh this out. And I really do think that the amendment that I have drafted up could be it. And I don't, you know, I've never really dealt with getting something through the municipal process. I'm usually an advocate, but, you know, I'm happy to answer any questions to help, you know, move this forward.
But I wonder, do you go and you ask for an agreement, or do you go and you say, look, we need to change the rules and then we need an agreement?
So that's the thing. I can't get an agreement before changing the rules. We need to change the rules. Otherwise, anyone seeking the delivery or social consumption license type, they're not going to be able to, you know, and just, you know, to point at the 2,000-foot buffer requirement right now. So the districts that the zoning, I don't know them off the top of my head right now. The districts where cannabis establishments are allowed on island, there's the 2,000-foot buffer requirement. First off, the Nantucket GIS map only lets you go 1,000 feet. But, you know, if you actually extrapolate out 2,000 feet, there's nowhere really that you're going to be able to operate. And there are a few pockets of places maybe, but, you know, I think you've spoken to maybe some of the people who own those parcels. And that's where, you know, I've done some outreach there too. And I think there are people in these zones that are already, you know, approved, that see the need and have a want for this license type. But now it's, yeah, really, we just need that municipal approval. So, and I digress. I've had 3 months of pent up, you know, energy around this. So if I get too long, just please stop me.
No,
I can tell you that I have not been in either facility, nor have I met any of the people associated with the facility.
I'm gonna stop there for 1 second just to kind of chime in. If you really do want to go to any of the facilities, either I can help you with that, or on the other side of the coin, call the owner, it's either Nicole or Brian. They would be delighted to know the fact that you are wanting to do it and will work with you to have that happen. Um,
That was tried early on. There were like 3 or 4 attempts and we just couldn't get it together. And I
What's
don't
that?
even remember about going over to the facility and I don't
Wait.
remember which one it was.
I would go. Interesting. I'd love to go.
Yeah,
Well, maybe Barry can contact one of them and both of us will go at the same time. They'll do both at the same time.
let me just make a quick note.
I will say I've had a tour of one of the facilities and I used to live next door to the other one. So I'm pretty yeah, they're great. You should definitely stop by, Joe. And that's where I have a lot of love and respect for the 2 operators on the island. So I hope you do go check them out.
And one thing I've found that's very helpful as well, especially on some of my trips off island, if I've got some free time and there just happens to be a marijuana facility not too far away, I'll go pay them a visit just to be able to see what the operation looks like, how it functions, what kind of products they have. So I mean, that's always a good way to learn, but I will tell you that when ages ago, when I first went to the Green Lady, Nicole was one of the most gracious hosts that I've ever had. Not to say anything negative about Brian, but she's been one of the most gracious hosts, and I guarantee that she will walk you through the entire process, stem to stern.
Is that the one on Amelia Drive?
That's the one on Amelia
Yeah,
Drive.
I can walk there in 10
There you go.
minutes. It's that
There
close.
you go. There you go. So I don't know. I'll certainly shoot her an email and I'll put your emails in there and let her work with you on an individual basis. The only time you need to dial me in is if nothing's happening. But I'm thoroughly convinced that everything will come together as it should with that. And I still need to visit Brian, but because of the problems that they had in the past, that kind of slipped off the radar, and ever since then I've been fully engaged, but I need to pay him a visit as well too. So all right, I'll facilitate that for you
Okay.
all.
Good.
Yeah, Abby, you good at the moment? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Jacques,
I'd like to go to the. Oh.
I'm sorry, Jacques, do you have anything?
I'm fine, thanks.
All right, so I'm gonna chime in on a slightly different level here. So where does this kind of need to go? Thank God we have a quorum now, because this was the first stepping stone that needs to happen. There are some things that I might be able to do behind the scenes if we don't achieve a quorum. But again, everything will be a little fluidic here in terms of doing that. The key point I see for something happening is going to be annual town meeting 24. The special town meeting that's being held right now is specifically to deal with short-term rentals. The select board has made that abundantly clear. That really is the only thing. Of course, citizens can submit articles, but there's a very narrow window under which to do it. And I would just say, if you read between the lines, that it's better to wait until annual town meeting 24. What would need to happen in the process as well too, and Dan's been really good about supplying some initial information on things, and now that we've formally met him, Dan, I'm going to ask you a favor. I've already got everything, but could you just send me the stuff again? Because instead of doing hunt and peck, and I think I've got the latest thing, I'll make sure that gets distributed out to the people on the committee now that we've formally engaged each other. That way you'll have an idea to track and see where he's going with things and some of the thoughts he's come up with. To really make this happen, there are two key linchpins I see happening in the system. One is going to be having to address the zoning issues. Okay, that's a big one. Again, as we talked about local versus what the rest of Massachusetts can do, I think the local level is going to be the tougher bar to pass here. Just for instance, with social consumption, I think, if you started looking at the downtown core district, beyond just the cost, there's just I don't think people are ready for it yet. But on the other side of that, I look at corridors like Fairgrounds Road, Old South Road, especially Old South Road, which when it was as we did the master plan for the island, the front section of that was heavily laid out as where a lot of commercial would go, and you're still seeing that. I can tell you right now on the just about opposite, a little bit past Fusaro's going out to the airport, there are two MCD plans coming in, major commercial development plans coming in for restaurants there. So that area, and as you watched it too, you can see that there's a greater growth of commercial happening along that. So those may be corridors that would support that very, very well. And there may be some hurdles that have to be overcome in that process, but you shouldn't just throw the baby out with the bathwater initially. I just want to keep you focused on the fact that there are potentials that are floating out there. But we definitely would need to chat with Leslie Woodson Snell, who's now going to be the new director of planning, Megan Trudell as well, who's going to be the senior planner, and just begin to have that dialogue to kind of get their input on things. The other critical component would be engaged with town council. I think taking a proactive approach with town council would be helpful. From the standpoint of, okay, just so we can start dialing some things in well before we get to town meeting, so that we can be able to successfully engage the select board, and then also kind of have a halfway decent game plan if we decide to move ahead with doing these projects. And more than probably, I would anticipate that you would need to have at least two articles, one from zoning, and then one as a general that deals with, I think it's chapter 92 of our bylaws, that would probably we'd have to access into and maybe change some of the parameters there and see what's going on. But I'd anticipate, excuse me, somewhere, not this month, but somewhere maybe like July or August, depending upon what's going on, we start the process, because it's a very short road to town meeting. The other question I will throw out as well, the third component I'll throw out as well, whether this becomes a citizens warrant article that we support, or whether it's a select board article, which they in turn are willing, would be the one behind the scenes, if the commission so desired to move it ahead. But we have no direct control over this, so it's going to be the select. The rules of town meeting, and if you don't, talk to me. But that's kind of how I see where we are today and where we would need to be as we roll up into annual town meeting 24. And at least in my book, although it seems like it's many, many, many months away, it's a really short window to get everything rolling and in place.
Those warrants need to be done in the first part of next year.
Well, here we go. It depends. If it were to be, let's just say hypothetically, that there was no real want from the select board to want to host an article. The other option is to have a citizens warrant article put in place. There are two very distinct deadlines for that. If it's a citizens warrant article, that usually opens up around November and closes somewhere in November. There's a few weeks for it. I'm a little off of my time frames here. If it were to be, all right, so let me go a little further here. If it's a zoning article or a selectman's article, that has a lot more latitude to it, and generally, but at around the first of the year, there's the whole public engagement process. The boards have said, yeah, we want to move ahead with it, and then that warrant closes in somewhere around February. So both the zoning component and the select board component have a much longer time period under which to do it.
But it's not a long period between now and, say, December.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It's gonna fly by. But like I said, I gotta kind of just see where we're at on the short term of things, but we definitely will need to, like I said, in the next month or two, really start being very serious about moving this thing ahead. Again, I'm gonna do this now. There you go. Because given our attendance at this point, I know I don't have a full board at the moment, but you guys all constitute a quorum. I'm only missing 2 people right now, and I promise I'll explain that in a few minutes. So just based upon initial impressions here, and I'm not trying to hold you to it, but some guidance would be good. Are you in favor of moving these proposals ahead with both social consumption and delivery? So I'm just going to call on each one of you. Joe?
I have no problem with it because it's the fair thing to do based on the regulations and bylaws that exist.
Got it. Thank you. Abby?
I agree, yes.
Okay.
We're moving them forward.
Beautiful. Jacques?
I'm in support of both ideas, so I'm all for it.
Okay. And since I engaged the conversation, I'm also going to be integral toward doing that. So I'll kind of do the mapping and see what work I can get done in the background. And hopefully from here on in, we'll be having a quorum under which to deal with things. So that's great. Thank you, everyone. Is there any closing comments before I move along? Okay. If you have any questions or anything, or again, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, let me know.
I just say thank you, Dan, for being patient with us. I'm glad we kind of got to finally have the discussion.
Are you kidding me? Just thank you all. I'm sorry, Barry. I'm humbled. It's an honor to be here. So thank you. Seriously.
Well, I'm kind of in Abby's camp here at the moment. I really appreciate you being very patient with us and have to apologize, for not being able to make quorums at times, because that's so important. So thanks. All right.
Thank you.
Let me move along. So in your email box, you will see that I sent you a notification because we need to look at, which is the next item on our agenda, which is the community host agreement with the Green Lady. What's the short of this is that their host agreement has a lifespan of 5 years, and here they are, it's 5 years out. And so they are able to renegotiate with the town on a brand new host agreement to take place. From now, just to give you a little background, they were the first people out there when this was done. It was just as the industry was coming online. So there was probably more question marks than definitive statements about what really needed to take place. They were the ones that everyone learned off of. I think somewhere between the first and the second host agreement, the select board realized that they wanted some entity to begin to deal with it, realizing the depth and scope of what was happening. So consequently, that's where you see the Cannabis Advisory Committee coming on board, but it was well after the fact. So with that host agreement, what has also happened as well too over the course of those 5 years, the Cannabis Control Commission for the state was still in its fledgling moments as well. And no one was really sure what was going to happen. Again, cities were just starting to come on board. After 5 years, I dare say there's been a lot of maturity that's happened. And in that as well too, the rules and regulations have changed as well. Okay. So with all that in mind, and again, as part of that conversation that I had with Libby about our engagement with the town, we have been asked to take a look at the host agreement that's currently in place for the Green Lady and put any recommendations or advisements that we may have into that. Sadly, though, there's a short window. I've been requested by town administration to make sure that's in their hands by no later than July 3rd. So I'm sorry for the short term on this. So I'm going to ask you to take a look at it. Give me any comments you have and get those back to me by no later than Wednesday, which I believe I put down as June 28th. That'll give me a few days to take a look at what you've all sent out and coalesce the information. I'm going to ask you as well, too, as you comment back on it. I've given you kind of a formatting routine in terms of doing it, but also please make sure as well, and I know I'm stating the obvious here, make sure everything goes through the chair. Don't group share at all, because that'll be a violation of the ethics committee, ethics commission. If you have any questions or concern, please let me know. The other thing I will tell you, back about a year ago, knowing this time would happen, the committee took kind of a preemptive stance on doing this exercise. What kind of came out of that was there was a document that Joe Plandowski had given me information on. I had taken some comments as well, put some comments in there as well. Don't be shy about adding your own in, but just so you can kind of see where we were heading to. And that document was roughly from around July 2022. So, and again, there's been some changes. So I know that for myself, I'll go back through that document and see what else I can incorporate into it.
Yes, I remember.
I know you do.
I reviewed that document and had a bunch of comments on it.
Yeah,
So it's going to be easy to pick it up and take another quick look at it.
absolutely. And I was I was never so proud of you. You were the only other person who gave me comments. Yeah. So thank you. There's nothing, when you do your comments, I'll certainly be sensitive to where we are. At the moment, there's nothing that you can say that's going to be wrong in there. But again, if I see something egregious, of course I'll give you a little email back. But you're all a very well-versed and intelligent group of people, and I'm looking forward to see what you can supply back. So you have a homework assignment.
Got it.
And I'd love to see that back. Like I said, I need to have that back. I'm so sorry, by June 28th, Wednesday.
That's a long time from now.
It isn't. It isn't. Like I
It's
know
2 weeks.
I know around
weeks
this
from
time.
now.
Oh my God, my days have been like, okay, oh yeah, I got plenty of. No, I don't. Something else is coming up. Now what do I got? It's just the days are evaporating. Yes, that's good though. All right. So, do you have any questions or comments on that?
I
I'm not
don't,
seeing anything. Look at the email, and if you do, you know how to find me. And
I just checked the emails in my email box, so I'm ready for it.
beautiful, beautiful. So you'll see both attachments on there. All right. Let me see, where else do I want to go? So next thing on the agenda is I do have a request from town administration as part of that discussion with the town manager. One thing she was talking about was drafting local rules regarding the cannabis industry. And I think that was because of the first two host agreements. Anyways, that was something that she still has expressed a desire to do. I think before we engage in that process, I'm going to want to I definitely want to try to make sure that somehow there's a chat with town council before we get too deep into that. So I think what I'd like to do is just maybe for myself is have the initial dialogue with town council and then tee it up so that we as a group can try to work on that as well too.
Is there any possibility of tapping into some other town or towns?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I could see this
I just,
being pretty extensive.
it is, it can be extensive. I'm not going to disagree with you at this point. Oh, look at that. Hold on just for a second. Nicole's here. I'm just going to take a second. I'm sorry. 206. Nicole, welcome.
Hi, Barry. I so messed up. I had in my calendar that it starts at 2 p.m.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, well, what can I say?
I'm glad to have you here, though.
Yes, thank you, Barry. Nice to see you.
Yeah, we've covered a fair amount of the agenda, and I'm thrilled because I actually have a quorum today. So it's like, oh my God.
Oh, that's nice. Well,
Yeah, so
please excuse my lateness. I'm 1 hour late.
that's okay. We're better late than not at all.
Thank you.
I'll come back to you in a minute. I just want to kind of finish up my thoughts here. We're discussing item 11 on the agenda, which is town administration to draft local rules regarding the cannabis industry. So I think maybe the best thing to do is just for me to have the initial dialogue with town council, just to kind of get the roadmap and the layout, and then have her turn back to us and give us the nitty gritty as to what we would need to do. The problem is that with the changes that the Cannabis Control Commission are throwing in at this point, it kind of keeps rewriting the landscape. And a lot of towns and cities are to this date having a problem trying to stay on top of that. They know what they'd like to do, but the permissibility of it becomes a whole different can of worms altogether. So I would just say to you, I think, again, taking a slightly more preemptive approach will be good, and just having that initial dialogue, and then chat with town council and then maybe town administration.
Town council might have access to some of this information.
So let me tell you about town council at this point. I'd be damned if I can remember her last name right now. Her first name is Nicole. And she is one of the leading experts from a legal standpoint in the state through K&P Law, who we use. So if there's usually questions about the industry and the legal ramifications or aspects of it, she in the state is one of the key go-to persons. So I would dare say we're in incredibly good hands by working with her.
Good.
Yep. Again, too, I just as I'm sitting here talking to you about this, we'll kind of have to see where we're at in terms of what she's going to recommend in that process. I don't want to get us too overloaded or walk into town meeting with, 5 or 6 cannabis articles without understanding the lay of the landscape, because people might be, what are you changing? No, I don't understand that. And how does that comply to this? And blah, blah, blah. And, all of a sudden everyone's like, nah, never mind. We're just going to shoot the whole goddamn thing down because we don't get it. So there'll also be that local concept of timing in relation to making that happen as well too. But that is something that will continue to be on the agenda for a while. Comments, questions so far? We're kind of coming toward the end of things. So just one more thing I'm going to throw in there, which was kind of an afterthought. We're down to 6 people right now. The select board, when Jason Bridges left, that position is now vacant. They'll be making their decision about who comes on the board on June 28th at their Wednesday meeting. And then we'll see where we are from there. Any other questions, suggestions, comments? All right. Unless y'all want to hang out and have a tea party,
No.
I would probably take a motion, and I'm fine with that. I'm really fine with that. I do like to chat sometimes. Otherwise, your time is precious, and I really appreciate you being here. It's a beautiful day, and I'll need you to get outside and enjoy it. So I would love a motion to adjourn if you're so inclined.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. So Joe? Yes, no?
Aye.
Okay. Abby? Why I lost Abby? I don't know. Jacques?
Yep. Aye.
Chair says yes, and I'm going to try Abby one more quick time. Well, thank you, everyone. Much appreciated. I'm so glad we were able to get some serious business conducted today, and your comments and insights were greatly appreciated. Have a good day, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Thanks, Barry.
All right, take care.
See you later, Bear.
All right.
Barry,
Bye-bye.
And
1 second, Barry.
Yeah, sure. Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole. I'm so sorry. I'm
Okay.
so
No,
sorry.
everybody, nice to see everyone. Thank you.
Was there something else you had? I'm so sorry.
No, I don't have anything, honestly. It was
Oh,
just-
okay. Well, oh no, I appreciate it. It's
Oh.
always lovely to have you on board and talk about insightful people. Nicole-
Next time I'll
Nicole's-
try to be on time and insightful.
All right. So, and we did talk about our meetings, and we'll still continue with the 3rd Thursday of every month at 1 o'clock.
Okay, great.
All right. So that puts us to July 20th, which will be our next meeting at 1 o'clock by Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Barry.
Oh, anytime. No, you joined us, and I don't want to be remiss here. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.